saw Satan fall like lightning. I saw darkness run for cover. But the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. I believe in signs and wonders. I have resurrection power. Still the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. Yeah, my praise belongs to you forever. This is my testimony from death to life, 'cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify, by Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Come together, sons and daughters, bought with blood and washed in water. Sing the praises of the Spirit, Son and Father. Our God will finish what He started. Yes, our God will finish what He started. This is my testimony from death to life, 'cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify, by Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. The greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. The greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. The greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. This is my testimony from death to life, 'cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify, by Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. Oh, I'm alive. This is my testimony from death to life, 'cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify, by Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Speak to me when the silence steals my voice. You understand me. You understand me. Come to me in the valley of unknown. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. So I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiation with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you. You're bigger than I thought you would. I believe, but help my unbelief. Understand me. You understand me. Help me reach the faith that's underneath. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. So I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiation with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you. You're bigger than I thought you were. I will rest in the Father's hand. Leave the rest in the Father's hand. I will rest in the Father's hand. Leave the rest in the Father's hand. I will rest. I will rest in the Father's hand. Leave the rest in the Father's hand.
you've gone before us, and all who will believe will sing the song of ages to the Lamb. 'Cause your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name, it stands above them all thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name, it stands above them all, and the angels cry, holy, all creation cries, holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever. If you've been forgiven, and if you've been redeemed, sing the song forever to the Lamb. Come on, church, if you walk in freedom, if you walk in freedom, and if you bear his name, sing the song forever to the Lamb. Oh, we'll sing the song forever and amen, and the angels cry, holy, all creation cries, holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever. Hear your people sing, holy, to the King of Kings, holy, you will always be, holy, holy forever. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name, it stands above them all thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name, it stands above them all. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name, it stands above them all, above all thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name, it stands above them all, and the angels cry, holy, all creation cries, holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever. Hear your people sing, holy, to the King of Kings, holy, you will always be, holy, holy forever. You will always be holy, holy forever, and you will always be holy. You will always be holy. You will always be holy, holy forever. Can we sing that one more time? You will always be
So I don't know about you, but I've just been sitting back. I love just the songs this morning. There was one line from the song that we sang earlier, that I will rest in the Father's hands, leave the rest in the Father's hands. And I love good word plays, but even more, I just love the line of thought that it takes you down, of just being able to rest in Him. And then leaving that thing, that situation, that circumstance, that relationship, that uncertainty, and just leaving it in His hands. Because He's bigger. He's bigger than I think He is, and He's bigger than you think He is. He's not threatened by our thoughts. He's not offended by them. He knows who He is. He spoke the universe into creation. A universe, by the way, that we can't fully even measure. A universe that's constantly expanding. Like He spoke it, and light burst forth. And all the amazing, mind-blowing ways that humans are still struggling to comprehend. And He just called that Sunday. I mean, he's like, oh, that's just a good day's work. It's just good to know He's bigger. No matter what you're facing, no matter what you're going through, like it's not some, like Mark said, it's not the opiate of the masses. It's not a crutch that you lean on. It's the foundation that we stand on. Because we believe there was a historical event almost 2,000 years ago that they still haven't found the body, because the body is seated on a throne in heaven in control of everything that we're walking through. Who is currently feeding the birds and the lizards that you don't even know is outside of your house right now, and provided for you today and every single day that you've ever woke up. Who literally put the breath in your lungs. And I just wanted you to be reminded of that today. Because we need to be reminded of that every day. I'm super excited. I've got to be honest. I kind of was just floating the whole universe thing out there, because I just need to give you a nerd disclaimer. I'm going to get a little nerdy in where we're about to head. But I am so excited for the passage that we're going to look at today. And so no matter who you are, no matter what you're walking through, I believe God has a word for you today. And has strength for you today. So, if you don't mind, let me pray, and then you can have a seat. And then I'll be back up in a minute just to kind of walk us through a really good passage today from the ministry of Jesus. God, thank you. Thank you for the truth that you're bigger. You're bigger than what we're facing. You're bigger than what we're navigating. You're bigger than the questions that we have, the fear that we have. God, you are stronger than our weakness. You are larger than anything we can comprehend. And so help us to get to know you better. Because we recognize that we have a tendency to put you in a box, to sit in control and try to sit on the throne and dictate and determine. And it's good to be reminded that the throne, there is no vacancies. You sit enthroned. You sit in control. And so we rest in that. And help us to leave the rest in that too. And it's in your holy name, Jesus, I pray. Amen. You can have a seat. you may not know who this is, but no doubt you know who this is. When he opens his mouth and he says, sitting in the morning sun, right? I'll be sitting when the evening comes. Right, that's Otis Redding, by the way. Considered by multiple chart kind of listers and makers to be one of the greatest voices America ever produced. Otis Redding's kind of most memorable song is two. One he wrote saying, little R-S-E, she sings it, and spells it, respect. I can't spell, okay? But he writes R-E-S-P-E-C-T, and Aretha Franklin ends up taking that song to the heights because that woman could sing Happy Birthday and just win you over. And then the other song that he's known for is Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. Now, what's fascinating is that Otis Redding recorded this song December 6th. And for those who know history, on December 10th, he got in an airplane with the band, and they crashed, and he passed away. The irony is that Otis Redding never heard Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. That famous moment in the song, I can't whistle, where he's like, do-do-do-do-do, that moment in the song, that was a placeholder because he was still trying to write it. So he was saying, okay, I know there's going to be another verse here, but I don't know what it is, so he whistled it. And in the aftermath of his crash, his friend who co-wrote the song, his producer, put the song together. And it was the only number one hit that Otis Redding ever had. And he never lived to even see it. And there's just this kind of quiet tragedy that Otis Redding never really saw the significance of what he was doing in the moment. The reason that he wrote Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, and then I'll be done with Otis Redding facts, is that he had had surgery a few months before, and he was afraid he wasn't going to be able to sing the way he used to. So he writes that song that was way different than what Otis Redding had sang before, so that he could still sing. And history would eventually realize how significant Otis Redding truly was. I tell you the Otis Redding story because I think in some ways, if we're going to understand that Jesus was the greatest of all time, then there is a story that we need to really deep dive into to fully grasp it. There's two. One we focused on last week, which was the resurrection. But the other one is the story I want to share with you this morning that no doubt you've probably heard before, even if you didn't grow up in church. It's a story, it's a moment in Jesus' ministry that was a lot like Otis Redding's life, where people didn't realize the significance of it until after the fact. They didn't realize the full weight of what happened until after Jesus had come back. And the story is the feeding of the 5,000. How do I know people didn't recognize the significance until after the fact? Is because the feeding of the 5,000 that I'm going to use today is from the book of Matthew, which was one of the biographical accounts of the life of Jesus. Matthew was there that day. Matthew was a tax collector who left his job to follow Jesus, and like any good tax collector, he was very detail-oriented. But I could have picked the book of Luke, which was written by Luke, who was a physician, who was also the Ken Burns of his day, who was a documentarian and a researcher. Or I could have picked the book of Mark, who was written, like we learned last week, from his time with Peter, who was also there that day. Or I could have picked John, who wrote his book as kind of the second generation towards the end of his life when he looked at the three biographical accounts of the life of Jesus, which, by the way, historically is unquestionable. It's books that we have within just 100 years, 200 years, some of them, of Jesus' life and ministry, which is extremely significant in the ancient world. I could have picked any of the 4 biographical accounts of the life of Jesus because the feeding of the 5,000 is the only other miracle besides the resurrection that is in all 4 gospel accounts. No other miracle besides those 2 show up in all 4. Because for whatever reason that you're about to find out, the gospel writers, the disciples, realized something significant was happening here. And so I just kind of want to walk through the story, maybe remind you of it, or if you're new to what this is, tell you the story. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them, and he began to heal their sick. As evening approached, one thing that you should probably know is time frame wise, if you kind of chart Jesus's rise, this is about the middle of the ministry when he is peaking in his popularity. So this is when the largest crowds are showing up. This is when the most people are standing in line to meet him, to hear him, to be healed by him, or to hear his teaching. And so as evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, this is a remote place, because they were in the middle of nowhere, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food. And we take for granted that you can drive down the road and there's something called fast food and restaurants. Now, they had an ancient version of restaurants, but they weren't mobile. And so you've got a lot of people who are hungry, who haven't eaten all day. And the disciples are starting to notice that. Like, maybe, I don't know about if any of the rest of you experience this, but in my home, it's quite obvious when people get hungry because they start to transform. Now, I use the word hangry because that's what happens, but what would actually be a more apt description, but is not as quite culturally like good of a reference, is the movie Gremlins. Remember when the water would hit them, like they just transformed from these like sweet little creatures to like kind of creatures? Like that's what happens in my household if you don't feed them. It gets dangerous, right? Like we don't leave the house without snacks for everyone. Because we will go from a happy family to I'm about to shank you family very quickly when hunger sets in. And so maybe the disciples start to notice that, and they're like, these families are breaking down. I think they're hungry. And so the disciples are like, we need to send them away. And Jesus responds, they don't need to go away. You give them something to eat. And the disciples come back and say, we have here, this was received from a little boy, only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. It's like, we found a kid who was willing to give up his Happy Meal. And Jesus says, bring them to me. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and he broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up the 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Now, this is what that means is they've counted the men, assuming kind of ratios from first century. We can estimate that this is probably over 20,000 people, maybe even 25,000 people who are sitting there. This is a small stadium. This is TD Garden Plus. This is almost Fenway Park. And Jesus starts to feed them. And then, immediately, Jesus made the disciples get in the boat and go ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. So he finishes up the ministry, the moment the service is done, and he tells his disciples, hey, go meet me on the other side. So they begin to travel by boat. And after he dismissed them, Jesus goes up to the mountainside by himself to pray. And later that night, he was there alone. And the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it, roughly about 3 miles. is what this considerable distance actually means in the original language. And shortly before dawn, so the sun is just about to peek over, so there's just a little bit of light, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. And when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified and screamed, "It's a ghost." You should know, like in that day, there was this superstition that if you were about to die from a tragedy, the thing you would see would be a ghost coming to get you. So that was kind of popular culture, kind of the same way there's like, oh, a black cat is bad luck or whatever. This is kind of the superstition of the day. And they're basically saying, we're about to die. And they said and cried out in fear, but Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." It's kind of quite the day, isn't it? The disciples wake up that morning. Jesus has a large crowd. He feeds them, puts them on a boat. One of the things I love about the details that doesn't necessarily translate into the English is, so here they are, and they're paddling this boat. Like, that's how you move. There's this huge storm that comes up, and it says that they're a considerable distance, early in the morning dawn. So what you can do with those two is you can compute the speed, which is about 1/3 of a mile per hour. Right? Like, that's not very fast. That's like a snail would be keeping up with you on the water. Now, they've been up all night, physically, battling and pushing. They're exhausted. But that's not the reason this story is in all 4 gospel accounts. It's not because it was memorable. We have 4 biographical accounts of what Jesus said. Everything he said and did was memorable because he was the greatest of all time. He was extraordinary. He was the GOAT. Right? The reason it was significant is because what it revealed about Jesus. So let's rewind and go through the story again, but slow it down. He gave thanks and he broke the loaves, and then he gave them to his disciples. He's feeding 25,000 people. Now, the challenge with this story is that we read it, but we don't sit down, because most of us aren't chefs or work in the food industry, and run the trail of like, oh, I wonder how much it takes to feed 25,000 people. Now, some of you have had large families over for dinner, and it's like, man, 25 people, that gets expensive, and that gets really, really big fast. Imagine it multiplied by 1,000. Fortunately for you, I don't really watch much TV, and this is what I do. Is my brain pops up random questions and says, well, how much food would that be, Chris? And I'm like, Chris, I don't know. That's a fascinating question. Well, Chris, don't you think you should figure it out? You know what, Chris? I think I will. So how much food is it? Well, it's about 4,000 to 5,000 loaves of bread, which is a pretty big little carriage. That's like more than Costco and bulk, which you probably could get for about like $3.43, right? But where it gets really interesting is the fish. Remember, this satisfies them. So this isn't a snack. This is like, my belly's full. And there's leftovers. So, let's turn this into this. Bumblebee tuna. It's not exactly tuna. It's carp is most likely the fish that was there, but we'll just use tuna fish as a way of really summarizing, which doesn't really fully capture it, okay? But I want to be conservative, because when we're talking upstairs, we're like, Chris, we should be conservative, because we don't want people to think we're exaggerating or being hyperbolic in our math, because I think math's important, and so I want to do math correctly. I'm a little bit annoying like that. It's like, oh, well, it'd be roughly. I'm like, no, roughly does not work. We need numbers. So how much tuna fish would it take? It would take 37,500 cans of tuna fish to feed that many people sufficiently. And then, because Chris, well, how are we going to help people understand 37,500 cans? I know what we should do. We should stack them. So how tall would that be? Well, that's 3,906 feet. And again, Chris, people don't know what 3,906 feet is. So let's use the Empire State Building. Well, the Empire State Building is great because it's about, minus the little cheek cone they put on there, the antenna that they use to try to make themselves look a little bit taller. It's like people who wear the thicker shoes, right? So totally do the same thing with the Empire State Building. And so the Empire State Building, without the cheating, is about 1,200 feet. So this is where I am I'm inadequate with the math, but that's about 3 Empire State Buildings. So imagine walking through Manhattan and you've got the equivalent of 3 Empire State Buildings of tuna fish cans. It's automatically the biggest building in the world. It surpasses that one by about 1,000 feet. And that's the amount of food Jesus, giving thanks and breaking, begins to pass out. That's extraordinary. And then fortunately for you, I was lying in bed one night and I couldn't sleep. And I didn't want to disturb my wife. And so I was like, you know what? How much power did that take? Because he gives, with his hands, he makes all this. Now, fortunately for you and I, there's something called E equals mc squared, where scientists, most famously Einstein, realizes that there's an energy mass equivalence. So with that equation, you can compute, if you know the mass, roughly the amount of energy it would take to produce said mass. So I began to do that math, right? Normal people don't do this. This is what I do. I still read theoretical physics. Sometimes my wife will be like, not sometimes, I read it every night. Okay, so I probably should confess that. My wife will be like, what are you reading? Like thinking it's like a TikTok or Instagram reel. I was like, oh, I'm reading about quarks, and she's like, never mind. It's like, just stop. Because I'll be like, new fascinating article or this new research. She's like, nope, just stop talking. I don't want to hear it. And this is what I do to relax. Anyways, so sitting there, E equals mc squared, and what I come up with, which is fascinating, is the amount of power that it would have taken to produce that much food. Okay, first of all, I could have used nuclear bombs, but I was like, that seems weird. So I kind of skirted away from the nuclear bomb and realized a better, less warish illustration would be the amount of energy and power it would take to fuel every home and business in the United States of America. And the amount of power Jesus demonstrated that day, which, by the way, just through his hands, was enough power to fuel all of the United States of America for a whole year. Like, sit on that for a second. The amount of power it would have taken for a whole year, Jesus does in the span of a couple hours. Now, what's fascinating is the atmosphere doesn't heat up. Nothing spontaneously bursts into fire. There's no warping of space-time. No one even notices the power being demonstrated. They just eat the food. The food's not even been warmed up, like it's been stuck in the microwave. Jesus just breaking the bread and multiplying it, multiplying the fish. I think this is the reason that it's put in all 4 gospel accounts. It's because in John's account, right before this moment, John talks about Jesus having authority and power. And it goes from that immediately into the feeding of the 5,000. As if John was saying, hey, I know the first three have talked about it. I know the first three describe the miracle, but you need to realize what that miracle was conveying. That miracle was conveying a lot more than some throwback reference to Moses and the feeding of the Israelites in the wilderness through manna. Because only Matthew's readers would have gotten that, because he wrote his account for the Jewish audience. The other three are written for the larger audience of Jews and Gentiles. But John's like, I want people to know it explicitly. I don't want them to have to guess what this is about. And so John talks about the authority and the power. And I think the reason why is because we talk about, Jesus came back from the dead, or Jesus performed this miracle. But we don't wrap our minds around it. And quite honestly, how do you compute the power demonstrated when he walked out of the grave? You can't. There is no way to summarize what he did that day. But the feeding of the 5,000, that's a lot more practical. It's your dinner plate. And they were capturing that power demonstrated in a story that was easier to actualize the amount of power that is available to you and to me. You see, I think one of the biggest disconnects in the Christian life for those who follow Jesus is the misunderstanding or the ignorance that we often have about what's available to us. I talked about that last week and said, hey, I want to walk you through over the next 3 months how to experience that, because we don't realize the features that came when the software was downloaded by the Holy Spirit in us when we become a Christian, when we recognize our own brokenness, when we see that the greatest enemy in our life is the person in the mirror. We are our own worst enemies. We are responsible for the biggest failures of our life. We are responsible when our finances turn south. We're responsible when our relationships go south. And I recognize there's like exceptions, but the reality is that we are our greatest enemies. And that Jesus came to reverse that and to exchange that sin with us becoming new. And when we trust what he did and we turn from what we've done, we become new in him. And that software is downloaded and those features become present, and we don't learn, in most kind of Christian circles, we never learn how to access them. And if you've been coming to Encounter for a while, you realize that I care about the practicality of our faith. That I think our faith is meant to be a little bit more than let go and let God. Our faith is meant to be a little bit more than just like Hallmark greeting card statements. That it has brought a dead man back to life. It has carried people for thousands of years through the darkest moments of their lives where they could still say hallelujah. And that's not reserved for the few or the super faith people. That's reserved for you and me. And the feeding of the 5,000 brings that to our belly and helps us to grasp what God has done before. Because if he's done it before, then he can do it again. The disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. This is another one of those details that we can read past, but man, we shouldn't, because this is significant. There's 12 disciples, and there just happens to be 12 leftovers, 12 basketfuls. And they take those 12 basketfuls. There's one for each disciple. So I want to introduce you to a town. Doesn't look like much. It's a little old. But this is Ebenezer. It appears most significantly in historical records in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 4. It's the site of a battle with the Israelites and the Philistine people. The Philistines crush the Israelites. they lose the battle. But then there was a second battle that's historically documented in 1 Samuel chapter 7. And the second time, Israel has gotten right with God, and God goes into the battle with them, and they win. And what happens is in the leadership, Samuel says, hey, we should remember this day. We shouldn't forget what God has done today, because the only reason we won was because he showed up. And so they built a stone monument, and they called it an Ebenezer. Because an Ebenezer in Hebrew means stone of help. So literally the location becomes a monument, a site of remembrance. So that as people traversed through Ebenezer and they saw the stones that were arranged very specifically that stood out, they would have said, oh, this is the place where God showed up. And he fought a battle. See, I think the 12 basketfuls were meant to be an Ebenezer. Because what happens right after the feeding of the 5,000? They get in a boat, and what do they encounter? A storm. And again, what I love about the Bible is when you step into it, it comes alive. God kind of brings it to life. And the storm is one of those moments. So here they are, and they're for 9 hours. I don't know about you, I can do like about 9 seconds on a rowing machine. I've gone to the gym before. I'm not saying I go, you don't get this body by going to the gym every day. You got to work this. Oreos, chips, right? And so, but I remember going to the gym one time and being like, oh, that rowing machine, I've never done that before. I bet it's easy. And it's like, oh, it's convenient. It even gives you like automatic workouts. 60 seconds. I need more than that. And then you do the first time, you're like, okay. About the 10th time, you're like, is it about time now? I mean, you're pouring sweat, your legs, your arms, everything's hurting. And you're at like 15 seconds. They did this for 9 hours. The boat's being tossed and turned. It's dark. The wind's blowing. And as they're doing this, you know what else they were having to do? Stupid basket. These baskets keep getting in between my legs. You see, they, like we, forget in the darkness what God had done in the light. Those baskets were meant to remind them of how faithful God had been. And it turned into what I think was probably an annoyance to them. But I'm not going to knock them, because I do this too. I forget in the darkness what God has done in the light. But one thing that I've done that's helped me is I took that Ebenezer concept to heart. Because it wasn't just for them, it was for me too. So this is what the background of my watch looks like. It says Christopher Henry Causey. It's literally a screenshot from a prayer journal. And if I were to date this would be January of 2016. My wife and I were in the midst of our infertility struggle. We'd gone to an infertility doctor and nothing was working. And we were devastated. And we were praying constantly. And I remember writing down Christopher Henry Causey. It just kind of came to my mind. I was like, God, would you give me a son named Christopher Henry Causey? What's crazy is about 3 years to the very date, my wife gets pregnant. And a son is born. But leading up to that moment, my daughter shows up one day from school, walks in our house before we even know the gender, and says, I've decided the baby's a Henry. And I'm like, that's the worst name I've ever heard, child. Do you have or do you know a Henry? No, but he's going to be a Henry. We don't know if it's going to be a he. We have no idea what the sex of this child is. You need to recognize this is not your job. But she is dead set. I mean, we find out it's a boy, Henry. And at one point, I look at her and I'm like, you realize it's not your job to name this child, right? Like, you don't get that privilege. She's like, Henry. And my mom, my wife are like, if we don't get a handle on it, this child, she's going to call him Henry for the rest of his life. She's like locked into Henry. And so one night we're laying in bed about to fall asleep, and my wife, while I'm thinking about something random, says, I think Henry's a good name. But I think it should be his middle name. I've never had this conversation with my wife. She never saw this. I never told her this. But she was like, you know what? I think he should be named after the most spiritually significant man in his life. My middle name's Christopher. That's where Chris comes from. She's like, Christopher Henry Causey. She's like, don't you think that sounds really good? And then it hit her. Henry was the name of the guy who was my mentor who'd passed away about 10 years before. If you knew him, you knew his first name was Henry, but if you just kind of casually knew him, you didn't, because he went by Dr. Rick Milne. He was one of the world's best eye doctors. And he would mentor me 6:30 every Wednesday morning. He taught me what it meant to be a husband and a father and a Christian. I mean, literally, so much. If you've ever had your life impacted by this church, it's him. Because I learned how to be a man. I learned everything from him. I didn't have a father growing up. He walked out of my life before I was ever born. He's the reason I hate filling out medical documents, because they always ask questions about the father side, and I just have to click I don't know, because I don't. And my wife's like, he would be named after the two most spiritually significant people that I've ever known. Fast forward to the day after I was diagnosed with cancer. My wife gives me a call. She had a doctor's appointment. She said, Chris, you won't believe where I just pulled up to. I just pulled up to the doctor's office, the building where our infertility doctor was. And I was playing with my son. I just started crying. Because in the moment, it was like God was just hitting me with this wave of saying, I've met you before in your darkest moment. And I'm here with you in your darkest moment again. Don't you forget in the darkness what I've done in the light. And that day, I changed my Apple Watch background so that every time I looked at the time, this is what I saw. So every MRI, every CAT scan, all 50 plus rounds of chemo, this is what I see. Because the God who had shown up before, the God who shows up every single time, again and again and again, don't forget your darkness. God has done in his power in the light. Which leads me to the practical question as we wrap up. What's your Ebenezer? You have one. It may take a little bit of work. And you may say, well, I don't even believe this stuff. That's fine. God still was working in your life. He's not so fragile that if you have a lack of belief in him, that threatens who he is. Someone could walk up to you and say, I don't believe in Chris Causey. Doesn't change my existence. I'm still here. God is still working in your life, even if you don't believe in him. He did it in mine. When I was in college, I used to pick on Christians because I thought they were stupid. And then I started meeting people who were different. And I couldn't explain their difference. They had joy when they walked through hard times. They had peace when there was conflict. They had a confidence when things were uncertain. And I just remember saying, I wish I had what they had. And then one day it hit me, they don't have something, they have a who. They have a someone. And so regardless of where you stand in your faith, you have an Ebenezer. But the Ebenezer is meant to have you too. And look, I don't know what it is for you, but I do know there's a moment where he showed up. Maybe it was a power bill or a water bill and you weren't sure how it was going to happen. I grew up underneath the poverty line my entire life. I look back at what my mom... I'll just be really real with you. I probably shouldn't even say this. My mom made less than $20,000 and was raising two of us. She didn't graduate high school because she bounced around to home because my family is a hot mess. The first one in my family to graduate high school. And what blows me away is that we give more to this church than my mom made all those years. I don't tell you that to be like, oh, Brad. No, I tell you that because God is that faithful. We don't see his faithfulness because most of us don't take a step of faith where he needs to show up. We play it safe. The biggest threat to your spiritual life is complacency. Do you realize that? Because you won't see him move until you take that step. Waters did not part until they stepped into it. And those moments of strength that I talked about, it was when I said, you know what? He did show up. He has been here before, and he made a way. So I'm going to take that step. And I'll be honest, there have been days in my journey, in my life, where I didn't have the strength to run a mile, but I had the strength to take a step. And then I'm like, God did that. You know, I wonder if he got enough strength for me to take another step, and I take another step. Like, I don't know if I can make it the day, but I think I can make it for the next 5 minutes. I think that addiction, I won't click for the next 5 minutes. I won't drink for the next 5 minutes. I won't say that and have an angry outburst with my partner for the next 5 minutes. And then you start to see him show up, and then it becomes 10 minutes, and then it becomes 20 minutes. Then it becomes a lifestyle because you realize he's faithful. And he shows up again and again and again. I have stared at death in this cancer journey, and I have been able to keep walking because I know there's an empty tomb where they haven't found a body. And I know because I have an Ebenezer, and I have a story of him showing up again and again and again. And you do too. And you need to write it down. You need to memorialize it, and you need to see it every single day. And sometimes on the hard days, more than once. So what is your Ebenezer? Because there is no one else like him. Who else is like him? No one. He is the greatest of all time. Let's pray. God, thank you Thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you that you don't just provide one Ebenezer. Good gracious, if I took the moment and looked back on my life, my road is filled with stone moments of where you showed up. Of the ways we were able to pay bills when we had no money because we had trusted you. For the ways that we had strength when it was so uncertain because you showed up. For the ways that I have found to fall asleep in MRIs and be woken up as I'm coming out because I have experienced peace that you've given me as they push my body in. And I just say hallelujah, regardless of what the scan shows. Thank you for the fact that I get to see my Ebenezers every single day. And I pray that you would help us, that you would bring to mind to us the ways you were faithful with us. God, may this day not end without us writing it down, without us remembering what you've done, because you're that good. We love you, Jesus. In your name, we pray. One thing I need to say, I realized I was like, I wasn't going to get into the financial thing, and then I totally got into the financial thing, is that some of you might have been like, oh my goodness, he's given more than $20,000. How much money does he have? Does he have a jet? Is he like one of those people? I buy my clothes at Target. I got a 2005 Toyota Camry. No, we're not loaded. We just believe God is big enough and faithful enough. So even in the midst of our cancer journey, while we've had to write some big checks to pay for that, we kept doing it because he's never not come through. I just felt like I needed to say that because I realized, I was like, Chris, people are going to think you're like those bad television preachers with private jets and fancy cars. And I was like, oh no. I was like, I rent my house. I got a 2005 Toyota Camry. I should probably say that just to make sure we're clear. But the point is, he shows up because there's no one else like him. There's no God. There's no one that's like him. And we want to close up the day with just a reflection of that, just an intentionality of thinking through that. Because we need to be reminded he's bigger than the box we have for him. So I want to invite you to stand as we sing this final song, and I'll be up right after to dismiss this. But ask him even as we sing, God, would you bring the Ebenezer to mind that you want me to keep on the top of my mind as I navigate through life. Let's sing.
I am an instrument of exaltation. I was born to lift the name above all names. You hear the melody of all creation. There's a song of praise that only I can bring. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. You are the infinite God of the ages, yet you chose to make my heart your dwelling place. You healed my brokenness, showed me Lamb of God, anointed one who was and is to come, seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one who shed his blood to prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ be lifted up. Holy, holy, Lamb of God, anointed one who was and is to come, seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one who shed his blood to prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ be lifted up. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. There is no one, only you, Jesus. There is no one, only you, Jesus. Let's sing this track. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. There is no one, only you, Jesus. There is no one, only you, Jesus.
Want to thank you for being here today. As we kind of head out, just want to keep you aware of a couple things. If you're new here today, on the back of the chairs is some QR codes. We would love to donate to a local food bank to feed a family of 4. It's just to celebrate and thank you for being here. Also, it signs you up for our once a week email. It's not spam. It's just letting you know what's going on here. Because there's a lot more to Encounter, and we want you to be able to experience that. So it's on the back of every chair, Encounter Church /new, if you're listening online. We also have a prayer group that meets on Sunday mornings in our kind of starting point glass area as you walk in. It starts at 9:45. You don't have to be like good at prayer. We don't believe like the power of prayer is in how good you do it or the words that you use. It's in the God that we pray to. And next Sunday, we're going to, not next Sunday, but the Sunday following, we're going to take communion. But it's also in the email. So we're going to be doing communion alongside prayer. If you want to be a part of that, the email will tell you everything you need to know. So also we have plenty of groups here. Student ministry is meeting today right after the service. We have young adults that are meeting today because it's also the 12th. Women, it says April 6th. Okay, the men's group is tomorrow. And yes, the men are like, yes, we're men. I don't know why the movie Robin Hood just popped in my head. I'm like, mighty men, we're men in tights. That's my brain. But anyways, so there are plenty of places. Like I said, there's more to Encounter, and we want to encourage you to step in. With that said, I hope you have a beautiful Sunday. Thanks for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you back here next week as we continue our series, Greatest of All Time. God bless you.